Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dream Life Loading channel. My name is Skye.
And I'm Susan. How are you today, Skye?
I'm pretty good, Susan. It's been a low-key week so far over here, but yeah, just crossing off our goals and I think I called it relaxed productivity earlier today. That's kind of the vibe for this week.
That's been the vibe since this weekend, I think, for sure.
How are you, Susan?
I'm laying low, but I'm good. Okay, we're gonna do a quick recap just so that you guys aren't in the dark. Long story short, I have complex regional pain syndrome, which originated from an injury in December of 2020. So this has been a long journey. And I had my pain come back. We do have a solution for it, but essentially that wore off. So my pain came back on Friday. So I've been literally laying on the couch with an ice pack on my ankle since Friday. And that's what I've been doing. But I have my boot and we're just making the most of what we can. So without further ado, since I have so much downtime, let's talk about reading.
This topic is perfect for how you're feeling. So maybe it
Yes.
will inspire you for some new books that you haven't read, or if
Thank
people
you.
comment books that they think we would like based on the ones we talk about, more books for you to read while you're
Okay.
laying low.
It's perfect.
Okay, I think today is going to be fiction books. So we're going to go through, or I don't know if I would say that these are all of our favorite fiction books, but I think they're definitely the ones that stand out over the past couple of years, couple of months, kind of depends. I know my list I kind of started from a few years ago and kind of just picked like the absolute best from the past couple of years, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same. We read a lot of similar stuff, so we had overlap. So instead of just like repeating ourselves, we do have our thoughts organized for you. Why don't we start with the first? Like this author got me back into fiction, and it was because of Skye. So, and if you've been on TikTok, you know who Colleen is. Like Colleen Hoover saved fiction for me.
Yeah.
Especially because we were both in college at the time. So, and at the time, English majors. So we were doing a lot of reading that wasn't necessarily what we wanted to. And she just brought the fun back for me, anyways. So yeah, you can start with your favorite Colleen book.
No, it's fitting. So I like got back into reading in the summer of 2020 with COVID and everything. It was something that I could do. And one of my good friends and I, she found Colleen. And so we lived close enough to each other where we would buy books and then read them and discuss them like on FaceTime or text. And then we would drop the book in each other's mailbox and then read them. And so we did that the entire summer. And it's honestly how we reconnected. And it's all thanks to Colleen. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. And the first book, I guess it was technically the second one I read, but this is the one that has stood out to me for over 2 years now, and it ends with us. I know this book has a little bit of controversy that some people thought it was too heavy or it wasn't. I feel like that's always going to happen with books. Honestly, I don't think every single person on the planet is going to love every book that comes out, but all in all, I think this book is highly obsessed over. And this past summer on TikTok, it really blew up, which was funny for us because we were like, this is old news. So it was
Yeah.
kind of funny that the rest of the world caught up on that one.
Because it did blow up this summer, and I think that might be the reason why some people didn't like it. I think there were expectations going into it. I didn't have a single expectation other than you liked it. You were like, you must read this book, and you didn't give me any other information. So I was like, okay, like I respect Skye's like literary advice. I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna see. And then I was just so sucked in. I think that's her writing style is what I respect, as she creates this character that you need to know more about, and then she cuts you off and gives you a different character's perspective on the next chapter, and you just have to keep reading because you need to know what's gonna like. She's addictive is what she
Yeah.
is.
It's young adult for sure. It's mature young adult.
Yeah,
Like
it's spicy.
there's the spicy scenes for sure, but it's also if you're looking for honestly all of these books, if you're looking for like a very high level, like a book that you're gonna have to look up words, like these are not those books. These are books to get you back into reading because they're quick. Like I read It Ends With Us in 2 days because you can't put them down. And when I look for a book, like at this point in my life, that's what I want. I don't want something that's gonna take me a lot of time to get through. I want something that's going to suck me into the story and I won't be able to put it down. And that's these
I
books.
think that's the other thing. I think reading kind of gets ruined for people because they feel forced to finish a book. Like, no one's going to force you to finish a book. If you don't like it, put it away. Don't waste your time pushing through something that you don't enjoy. Like, reading's supposed to be fun. And I was a former English teacher. I've seen firsthand how we suck the life and the fun out of reading. So if you don't like it, put it down. Move on. Thank you next. Like, you're not going to sit there and watch a movie you hate. Don't do it with a book.
Yep.
It's supposed to be enjoyable.
Totally. So I guess I don't want to go into a ton of detail on each book, but I want to give like a little bit of background so that you could decide like, oh, that one sounds like something I'd like, or oh, that's one I can skip.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So It Ends With Us is it's a story, it's kind of like one woman's story. There is the topic of domestic abuse or domestic violence. I think that's really important to mention because I think that honestly was where the controversy came from is that I didn't know going in that because a lot of us read it like Susan said without any context. So I didn't know going in that it had that theme which it was okay for me, but I know there were some people where that was a huge trigger for them very understandably. So yeah, it's one woman, it's kind of her journey with becoming her own and her confidence and I don't want to give too much away. Do you have a better way? It's based in
Boston?
that's what I was going to say too, but I didn't
I
know
think it is Boston. Yeah, because she has the, yeah.
because the reason I'm having so much trouble is because the author has recently come out with It Starts With Us, which is the sequel,
Yes.
however you want to put it, but so I'm confusing the two storylines in my head, but it's worth reading. I think the story is just it's a love story for sure. Yeah, just like you're rooting for that main character so
Mhm.
much throughout the whole book and yeah, It
Yeah.
Ends With Us is like still it's been 2.5 years since I first read it and it every time I read a book it's like yeah that was good but it doesn't it ends with us.
Yes. And I actually have that one. So this is what it looks like, or this is what it used to look like. The covers might have changed at this point,
Yeah.
but
Perfect. Okay.
another one by her. I'm just gonna plug real fast because I have it here and it's good. It's not her style. It's very different from her writing. It's Verity and it's spooky. It's good, but it's spooky.
Hmm.
And I'll leave you with that. So you can have like her love vibes, or you can have her scary vibes. But she's very good at both.
Okay. Another one that I read back in the summer of 2020. This was so that was like my get me back into love stories, and this one was like get me back into thrillers. Is The Last Mrs.
Yep.
Parrish by Liv Constantine, and I didn't know when I first read it, but Liv Constantine is a sister duo, and I believe that name is a combination of their two names, but they write as a duo, which I think is pretty cool. The Last Mrs. Parrish is so good, and there's such a twist that you do not see coming and it's again like a super quick read, super engaging, and you're rooting for characters and then you're not sure who you should be rooting for. It's did you read this one, Susan?
No, I haven't.
Oh, this one has to be on your list.
I'm very excited now. I saw it actually when I was looking through our list, and I was like, oh, I think I need to read that.
Yeah, this one it's really good. Woman comes and like kind of comes to town and she starts befriending people and then you think you're rooting for the right person and then you start figuring out things and yeah, very good. And that one's like not disturbing spooky, but it's definitely a thriller. So yeah, if you want like thriller that's not going to keep you up at night, The Last Mrs. Parrish I think would be that one.
Okay. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book. Some people that read it were underwhelmed by it. Again, I think they went in with expectations. I love it. I don't have the actual cover to it. I don't know where it went, but I loved it. It's broken into different perspectives, which I think I like. I think that's why I really like this one. But it was just a vibe. It was all about this band and really the behind the scenes stuff told through all the band members' like point of view. And it was just classic and I just felt iconic reading it. And Taylor Jenkins Reid has such it's very similar style to Colleen, but it's more like you feel like you're literally in the setting watching as like a bystander, watching all of everything happen and just so colorful and vibrant when you're reading her pages.
Taylor Jenkins Reid is such a cool author. I think all not all of her books, but her more recent books, they're all fiction, but she's writing about people as if they're real people. So like like Daisy Jones and the Six was written, it was basically a biography of this band and their history, but it's a made up band. The same
Yeah.
is true with two other of her books that I can think of off the top of my head. I was one of those people that was underwhelmed by Daisy Jones and the Six. I think because I saw it was on Reese Witherspoon's book list and I was like, oh, this has to be amazing. And I read it and I liked it, but I didn't, it was missing something for me. I don't know what, but
Yep.
very Fleetwood Mac vibes. Like if you're a fan of that
Yeah.
band, like it was very like okay, like I see where she's picking inspiration from here, which I appreciated. And they're coming out with a show.
It's I need to see it. It's missing the soundtrack. I begged TikTok for someone to just record it. The songs are in the back of the book. Someone please record them. That's what it needs. It wasn't like okay, it was underwhelming in the sense that it was just simple and I think that I needed that at that point in my life.
Yep. And it was a
Maybe that's
really,
why I loved it so much.
it was so unique. It was a really cool story and great characters. It's worth reading for sure, but I think if I went in with
Oh,
this expectation, I'd like it better.
I think we should just hit all of our Taylor Jenkins Reid books right now because her characters overlap in her other stories. Like they'll just appear and have like some sort of a mention. It's like, oh, I remember them from the last book, even though they're not connected at all, which is just one of those. It's like an Easter egg. It's just exciting to find and to be like, oh, I know that guy,
Right.
even though we know.
And it wouldn't be like if you didn't know, there's never any like spoilers, I don't really think.
No.
But yeah, so that Daisy Jones and the Six is good. My favorite Taylor Jenkins read by far is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn
Yes.
Hugo. That
Yes.
that one I was because I read Daisy Jones first. I was like, okay, this was fine. That one I was like, this is it. Like again, I was getting like a was it a Marilyn vibe, I think? Was
Yeah.
there were a few different like Hollywood icons that I felt like she was drawing inspiration from again, which is amazing. But again, similar idea where she was creating this fake world. Was it the 20s? Am I in the wrong? I don't remember.
Evelyn Hugo. Mm, I think it was late. I
50s,
don't know. It's
60s.
been so long.
It was
Yeah.
definitely like
Yeah.
old Hollywood, like that whole vibe. And she was
Yeah.
creating all these incredible characters. The character Evelyn Hugo is incredible. And then the woman that's writing the book in the story, it would make sense if you read it, is an incredible character too. So many layers to that one, but I couldn't put that one down. And she walks through all the seven husbands of this icon. And so that's kind of how the story progresses. But that one was really well done.
Yes. That one, yeah. It was just wrapped so well and you felt such closure at the end. Like it was really good. And a character from that one falls over into Malibu Rising, which this was the first book I read by her. And I read it at the beginning of summer. And I was just like, okay, I need a surfboard in sunshine. It just poured out good vibes. And I loved, loved, loved this one.
I liked Malibu Rising as well.
And
I
it's
think
an easy read. It's not
it
like
is.
confusing.
Did you read Carrie Soto is back, right?
Yes. And that was excellent.
I really enjoyed that one. It's about a tennis star making a comeback. She's in her late 30s, mid 30s, and it's this
Yep.
again like made up character that you think is real by the way Taylor Jenkins Reid is able to put all this
Mhm.
detail into these people. And she's making a comeback and it's just a story of like I am not a sportsy person at all and I have never played tennis, but she explained enough where I was able to like follow these tennis matches and it was fun. I was like, I remember sitting in my bed reading and I was like flipping the pages so fast. Like, what happens to this match? Like, as if you're watching it on TV.
Yeah.
So I did not expect to enjoy that one as much as I did, which just proves what an amazing author she is.
And I have played tennis since I was a seventh grader. So I very well understood what was going on and the same thing. I mean, you could just literally felt like you were sitting in the stands watching these tennis matches. It was so good. So good. Love that one.
Yeah, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Colleen gets a lot of hype on TikTok, and Taylor does too. But Taylor Jenkins Reid is a really, really good author, and she writes so many different types of books. I didn't include it on here, but I do believe One True Loves is by Taylor Jenkins Reid.
I think so. Yeah.
That is one of the best books I've ever read, and that's very much love story, like completely different vibe from her newer stuff. So she's good. Like lots of good stuff.
It is really good. Absolutely. You want to throw in a thriller because we have a couple of those left.
Yeah. I want to talk about The Silent Patient. This one was creepy. I read this last year when I was flying to Italy, so it was a long flight, and I had hoped to sleep, and I started this book and read it for like 6 hours straight. I couldn't put it down, and this one's creepy. Like Last Miss Parish did not like this didn't give me nightmares, but it was like, all right, this is spooky. But it's about this doctor that goes to help this woman that's been in a mental hospital, and she's mute. She won't talk and no one can get her to talk. And so it's like their dialogue and how and it talks about her past and his past. And there's a giant twist at the end that I personally wasn't expecting at all. But really good story, super engaging, super creepy, and um, good characters. And you're kind of like left wondering who's to blame. And yeah, it's good. I hate to give away too much with thrillers because if you say too much it ruins the whole book. So the
Yeah.
Silent Patient is one of the best thrillers I've ever read. That one's really special. Creepy.
I picked that one up at Target the other day and I was like, do I buy it, the physical copy, or do I read it on my Kindle? And so I ended up gonna read it on my Kindle because I got Spare by Harry, Prince Harry.
Oh, good. I'm excited to see how that
Yeah,
is.
very excited to read that. So the Vocal Woman Missing, I'm reading this right now. This was my weekend binge because I laid on the couch. And it's really good. I have to read it 75 pages at a time because I get hooked in and I need to like see. Also alternates between perspectives, which no wonder I like it. But this one's eerie. Like it makes me kind of stop and I'm like, okay, like this could actually happen. And there's so many people who could have done it that I just like race. One chapter, I'm like convinced it's this person. And the next person, I'm convinced it's another one. And I know by the time I get to the end of this book, it's going to be someone we've already met, but I don't know who. So I
We're
really, really enjoyed
so
that.
it's ironic. Susan and I did not plan this, but we're actually both reading that book right now. I picked it up because I needed a book that was going to suck me in, and this is what was
Yep,
recommended, and it really does. And
it does.
it starts 11 years before, and then it basically takes place in a suburban. There's obviously local women missing. I mean, the story talks about three women that are missing, and then you kind of slowly unravel what happened to each of them. I feel like is a good way to explain it without explaining too much.
Yeah, that was great.
And yeah, that one that like I started this Home Alone one night, and the first section is really disturbing, honestly. It was not what I was expecting, and it
Yep,
gets
it
less
is.
disturbing, but it sucks you in for
Yep.
sure. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it
The
ends.
first part just feels like this is not possible. And then you get grounded in reality of this small town. It's like, okay, I can picture myself here because it's very applicable. It's applicable to any town with houses. Like,
I think
it's
that's
good.
why it works, because that first opening scene is so disturbing, and you're like, okay, like I'm reading a horror
Mhm.
book. I didn't expect this, and then you're dropped in the middle of this suburban town, and it became very clear very quickly that this all actually could happen, and unfortunately probably does in instances. So to go back, I just want to mention it quickly. The Dolly Parton book, I believe it came out almost a year ago now. Run Rose Run is amazing. If you've been to Nashville, if you've never been to Nashville, doesn't matter. It takes place in Nashville, and the detail that went into it is amazing because you can really picture yourself on Broadway in Nashville, and it talks about the very like clearly Dolly Parton character, and we have like our main character and then the Dolly Parton character that's very clearly based after Dolly. And
Mhm.
it's an amazing story how these two women like kind of butt heads and work together, and then there is a mystery aspect of it as well, so lots of different elements to it. And I loved it. I thought it was so well written and just very Dolly and very Nashville. So it's a good, it's not like love story, and it's not a thriller. It's just kind of like a good story, like a great storyline, and it's so well written, and you don't want to put it down, which is a perfect book to me. Did you read One Italian Summer, Susan?
No.
I read this one this summer. It's really short. It's like 200 pages. I read it this summer, and it takes place on the Amalfi Coast in Positano, and I was like, all over it. It's so worth reading. It's an amazing story and it's very sci-fi fantasy, which I wasn't expecting when I actually didn't read the back of it at all when I bought it, so I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it's like a honestly a story of like a mother and a daughter and the mother passed away. That's like the opening of the book as you find out, and then this woman is kind of going through this like transition of how do I move on without my mom, and sci-fi fantasy elements to it and the descriptions of the Amalfi Coast in the summertime. It's just pretty much perfect, and it's a quick read and very like heartfelt. So I recommend that one as like a nice little quick read that'll definitely hook you in. Another thriller. This one is called The Housemaid. Super disturbing. Did you read this one?
No, not yet.
The beginning of this one reminded, or the full book of this one reminded me of the beginning of Local Woman Missing and just that like very like uncomfortable, creepy way. But it's the story of this housemaid that starts working for this really, really rich family. And then the wife is this awful woman and she's terrible to the maid, and the husband's nice. And then like they do terrible things to her and you can't figure out why, and then perspective kind of switches and you kind of start to figure things out, similar to the last Mrs. Parrish where like someone new comes to town and you kind of discover and then perspective changes. So really creepy book, but really good, and like a huge like aha moment at the end, which I feel like is always very satisfying when reading a thriller, especially. Favorites?
You start.
Okay. Um, my, I guess we'll do physical first. My physical favorite is I have obsessed about On Cloud sneakers for so long, and I finally got a pair. I have them here. I wanted these because I like that, like they look pretty sporty, but I
Yeah,
wanted
they're really cute.
but I like that they're not like a running sneaker. So, like, I wanted something that I could wear to the gym and wear on the treadmill, whatever, with leggings, but also wear with jeans. And I thought that I could get away with that with these. And I did it the other day. And Nick was like, it totally works. Like, they look like your Reebok,
Yeah.
something like that. Like, they don't look like a running sneaker, but they're comfortable like a running sneaker. So, I really like them. I was able to like tie them so I don't have to tie them every time, but super comfortable, super cute, and I'm very happy to have them after obsessing about them for far too long. So that's my physical favorite this week.
Love that. My physical favorite this week is my iPad because I this was one of my goals for 2023 was to get purchase an iPad. And I'm just so excited to use it for both personal and business reasons, and I just feel more organized already.
There's so many fun things to do with an iPad too. I feel like we were talking about this earlier, like all the TikTok opportunities with the iPads and scheduling and planning and
It was so much easier, like even looking through our influencer applications, just having a separate thing. It made my life easier, and I'm very grateful that our business is successful and we have an asset like this now. And it's a good vibe. And it's was on my vision board for January. So cross that off. The first goal for 2023 is done.
that's so cool. What a satisfying feeling. I love that. It's going to be
Right?
so useful. My spiritual favorite is this whole lucky girl syndrome um,
Mm.
trend mantra, but basically I've noticed that we've kind of changed the way we talk about it too. So when I first saw lucky girl syndrome, it's basically saying that you say you're lucky for the things you want. So for instance, last week before Susan had her iPad, she would say, I'm so lucky that I was able to purchase an iPad for my business and for my personal life. And then you basically are being lucky and grateful for the things you don't have to manifest getting them, which
Yep.
I still do and I think is fantastic and so smart and for so many different reasons. But we've honestly started just doing this for things we already have, which I think is kind of the point of everything, because if you're grateful for what you have, you're the universe is going to reward that and give you what you want. So I notice like we say it all the time, like you said it even earlier, like we were complaining about something and you're like, but I'm a lucky lucky girl because like I have X, Y, and Z, or like even in like if
Mhm.
something, actually I said it because I spilled ice everywhere and I was like, but I'm a lucky girl because I had already put ice in my coffee, so I wasn't short on ice. Little things
Yep.
like that, just find the positive in a moment. And I have noticed that like our moods have brightened and changed with just saying this one little phrase. And if you say something, even if you don't mean it the first time you say it, you're gonna start to believe it. So yeah, lucky girl syndrome, that's my spiritual favorite.
Yep, I love that. Mine is the concept of temporary because everything is technically temporary. Your job, your attitude, whatever pain you're in, like it's all temporary, especially with my foot, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm in so much pain. And then I just remind myself, okay, it's temporary. You're not gonna feel like this forever. And the on the flip side of that, like if you're having like the best day, it's temporary. Like you need to just embrace it and just be so present in the moment that it's okay that it's temporary and just be grateful for the moment when you have it and then be able to reflect on it when it's over.
I love that. I like the double meaning of it too, that you can use it in a negative situation to help you push through, and you can use it in a positive situation to remind you to stay in the moment.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It reminds me, my one of my favorite quotes of all time is "No day but today" from Rent, a musical. But like, no day but today. Like, we have today, so enjoy the now. Yeah, I like that.
Guys, well, happy reading. We'll see you next week. Oh, next week we're going to talk about nonfiction that will change your life, and we'll see you back here next Wednesday.